Hey everyone, Golden Ninja 3000 here again. Today I'm going to be comparing the different LEGO Slave 1 sets. This is Boba Fett's spaceship from Star Wars, and we have a couple different versions here. On the left we have the kind of mini scale version from the Cloud City set, Betrayal at Cloud City, that was like $350 and released in 2018. In the middle we have the Boba Fett's Starship set, which was released in 2021 and retails for $50. That is the only version of this ship from The Mandalorian, while the other two are from Return of the Jedi or Empire Strikes Back. I don't know what movie it was in. I haven't seen the original Star Wars movies, but don't tell anyone. I'm planning on watching them, don't worry. And then over here, we've got the UCS Slave 1, which is my favorite Star Wars set ever. This was released in 2015 for $200, and it is in true minifigure scale, so it obviously dwarfs the other two. We'll start with the two smaller guys because I feel like this is going to be a better comparison than comparing them to the big one, because we all know who's going to win. So I really like these versions, and they are kind of like, well, not kind of, they are very different than I expected them to be. So I used to own the Betrayal at Cloud City set. I did end up selling it, although I kept the Slave 1 because I really, really liked it. And there are certain parts about it that I like more, but there are also parts about it that I like less. You can tell right off the bat that the 2021 version is much, much more detailed. I think it's most clear just like around the wings, because compare like that kind of wing arch to this one. This one has so much more shaping, so much more detail, using newer pieces, of course. And then even going like into those struts, there is some mechanical detail back there, but there is more on the new version. And even the wings on the old one, they work well enough, but the new one has much larger wings with better colors and even adjustable flaps, which I'm just really impressed by. The kind of upward slant over here, I think it's achieved very well on both ships. However, this one is, again, less detailed. They have stud shooters in almost the exact same place with different colored studs in them, and they do have hollow studs as well for detail. But this has so much more sand green, and I really prefer that. I love the green on the Slave 1, and now when I look at this one, it just seems so gray to me. Although the ends are very similar, this Slave 1 can move its guns while these ones were immovable. These not being movable, I was okay with, because these guys get knocked out of alignment whenever I touch the ship, and that does kind of annoy me, although again, it's a detail, so I'm not going to complain about that. Meanwhile, down here, this is where the door would be on a larger Slave 1. On the left, we've got a clip for Boba Fett's weapon. Down here, you can just see straight into like the Technic bits. I don't love that. I wish that that was kind of covered up now that I'm looking at it next to this one, but it can't be covered up because you lift this part up and then you've got storage for someone in a carbonite block, if I can get that carbonite block out. I forgot to mention I did do a full review on this set, so you guys can check that out if you're interested. But yeah, I really like that there's carbonite storage there, although the 2018 ship does have carbonite storage in a different spot. As for the bases, honestly, I kind of like this one better. It is more simple, but I just really prefer the curved appearance of this one to kind of the jagged appearance of the new Slave 1. That's something I was surprised by when I was building this set, is just, again, how jagged everything is. Like, you have just like wedges and slopes and everything, where I feel like you should have smoother curves. So I really like the smooth curves on this ship. You've got some nice stickers, and I especially like the larger curves up here, because again, all of this just seems very, very jagged to me and not nearly round enough now that I'm actually comparing them. However, on its own, I think it's okay. It's just that when you put it next to something like this, you can really start to see the difference. Both of these cockpits can open up, and they both fit Boba Fett. Now, this is kind of fun because on the left we have the older Boba Fett from Empire Strikes Back, and then on the right we've got the new one. That's great. However, you'll notice that the 2018 ship does not have any controls whatsoever. I'm sorry, didn't mean to knock the camera there. You can pick this guy up, and you can sit him down the other way as well. For the landed mode look, you can do that with the new Boba Fett as well. However, he kind of gets the leg up here for me because he does actually have a printed console in the front. I prefer the trans clear canopy to the trans black one. However, I don't remember exactly what color it was in The Mandalorian, so you can explain that as, you know, it's kind of like gotten darker with age or something, like maybe the glass is just dirty. And then on the backs, we do have some pretty nicely detailed backs or bottoms for both of these ships. I do kind of like this one better. Even though it's got that massive gap, it can hold Han Solo in carbonite. And you'll notice that both of these guys can actually stand up without the aid of stands, which is very, very helpful. I just discovered that while filming this comparison. But yeah, you can store Han Solo in carbonite here, and I definitely like that because that is a very large piece compared to the tiny version that goes into this Slave 1. This Slave 1 does have a little bit more detail back here though. It also has a handle, which I actually completely forgot about. You can just pull that out here, and there's a little handle. And then there are a couple pieces that will allow it to connect to a cart that it came with so that it can stand up properly and not just rest on its own weight. So as I said, the 2015 Slave 1 is my favorite Star Wars set. It is the first Star Wars set that really caught my eye, and I was determined to get it. I did eventually get it in 2018 when it went on sale over Black Friday weekend, and I'm very glad I did because I love this set. So it's kind of hard to keep everything in frame here, but this one wins on all fronts, clearly. I love the bottom of this thing. It does, it is kind of messy, especially down towards the bottom where the stand attaches, but I think the engines just look fantastic as you would expect from a UCS set. And then it even has all of like these little clear and studded like bits that kind of act as a stand to make it look like it's levitating slightly off the ground. And it's just an amazing display piece. I love it so much. This set kind of has all the play features of the larger ones, although of course it does have a few more. So you've got the kind of like gravity adjusted wings, although of course the detail here is unmatched. It's so funny to compare stuff like detail and play features with such a large set, but I mean, hey, it's just the truth. I will say this has less sand green than the 2021 version. I just feel like there's a lot of sand green right here in comparison to the larger vehicle. Although now that I'm saying that, I'm also remembering that the 2021 version is from a movie that's set from a show that's set like 40 years after this one. So again, it's perfectly possible it got more rusted and dirtier. This base, I think, strikes the perfect balance between jagged and round. I really like the building here. Although you will notice that there are some gaps. I never noticed how many gaps there were in this set until like right now, but there's like a couple small ones here. This entire section is very fragile. You can't grab the larger Slave 1 from the middle, but you can with the smaller ones, and that's something I really appreciate. And then there's just, there are like a bunch of little gaps kind of everywhere. Like you can even start to see stuff poking in through there around the bottom of the cockpit, but that's kind of unavoidable even at such a large scale. So starting down here, you do have adjustable guns, although these ones are linked, so they move together. I really love that. And then the extra play feature you have here is that the side panels pop out. If I can get them, come on, it's kind of delicate. It can be hard to snake them out sometimes, but there are extra weapons in here. And again, that is wonderful. You can hear like all of the creaking. This thing has been on display since I built it like 3 years ago. So yeah, the pieces are getting like kind of old, but I just really like how those features work. And then there are even more play features down here because this section underneath the ship, which is just wasted space on the little versions, this is actually where the door is. So on this set, you can lift up the door, and that is where the Han Solo and carbonite piece attaches to. It is really hard to get it in. It's kind of like even harder to get it out. You don't want to lose it in the depths of the ship, but that is, where the carbonite goes to in the movie. So I'm really happy that it actually goes into the right spot on this set. Lastly, the cockpit on this set, one of my favorite parts of it, this piece was made just for the Slave 1, and it is incredible. Again, trans clear, which I definitely prefer to the trans black. And in there, you've got Boba Fett in an extremely detailed chair with clips for his weapons on either side. You've got consoles everywhere. This is the ultimate cockpit. It is my favorite. It's like my favorite cockpit of like any Star Wars vehicle ever. Because even in something like the UCS Millennium Falcon, you don't get this much detail. You just don't. I can't really lift this up, but the other awesome thing is that this swivels. This thing swivels on like a couple different joints. You can actually kind of like move it in. Like it kind of moves almost like a carriage on like a Ferris wheel, because it can move like kind of like up and down and then like forward and back. So yeah, it's really cool, but it can easily go into landed mode or flight mode, and that is just something that no other ship can do, understandably, but it still just really makes this one stand out, and I really love that. The only thing it's missing is that interior space for all the other passengers that we saw in The Mandalorian. But that's a joke, because of course the designers didn't know about that, since that interior space didn't exist until 2020. I really like all of these builds. The smaller ones are actually great compromises if you can't afford something like the UCS one. And even as someone that has the UCS one, the reason why I like the smaller versions is because they're actually usable. I'm not about to pick that UCS version up and like pretend to fly it into battle against any of my other ships. I wouldn't even like put it in a display with like other UCS ships. I mean, well, I would with other UCS ships, but like, you know what I mean? It's minifigure scale, so even though it's awesome on its own, it's kind of hard to function with other Star Wars sets. I don't own any of like the $100 slave ones, especially like not the anniversary one that was released 2 years ago. But so I don't really know how those stack up. But for me, the small versions give me everything I want. You have a seat for Boba Fett landed or flying, and I know I have them all in flight mode right now, even though they're landed. You also have like those free gravity moving wings. I know I didn't really show that off, but every single one of these sets has those wings that just move with the weight of the ship. All of them have places to store carbonite, even if this new version just has, you know, the 1x2x5 brick space and not the actual molded Han Solo space. And they all have some kind of play feature. You know, you've got rotatable guns or you've got stud shooters. You've always got something. And I think that there's nothing that like the $120 one would give you that the $50 one can't. The only thing it'll give you is a bigger, more detailed version if you don't have the UCS. But as someone that owns the biggest, most detailed version, I really love the small ones because they are a lot more functional than even the large one, because the large one's so hard to fly around. So that's it for this comparison. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and check out my website, goldenninja3000.com, and I'll see you guys in more videos soon. Bye for now.